Hello CS112, today I'll be going over a quick solution to Lab 11, which had to do with classes, aka object-oriented programming. This is essentially what your next class is going to be about if you are a computer science major and you're going on to CS211. So as you can see here, what this lab wanted you to do is create a human, class human, essentially a blueprint for a human, and it gave you some test cases down here. So obviously it wants you to make an age function, an ask name function, and a poke function, all which should return the age, name, and ouch. So obviously the syntax here, you need to first create a human, a type human to test your stuff. So in order to do that, you'd create a variable. This can be anything. It can be H, it can be Apple, but I used human, so I'm gonna say human again. And you would say the class's name wrapped in parentheses, given the arguments needed to create this. So this was also given to us on the PDF, which kind of gives us a hint on how to create our init method. So if we say def init, obviously the first thing we need is self, and then we are going to need two other variables, and what it looks like is a guy's name as well as their birth date. So we can just say name and birth date. So now we need to initialize these guys. So I'm going to say self.name, oopsies, if I can type today, self.name equals name and self dot birth date equals birth date. So now I have initialized, so whenever you create a human, it knows that whatever specific human is talking about, this name is associated with this specific copy of a human. So that's what self.name equals name, self.birthdate equals birthday. It's just initializing these with this instance of a human here. So now moving on, we want to do the age function, which is actually the hardest of the three. So let's just knock out this guy real quick. I'm going to do def age, again with the parameter self, so we can work with the copy we've created. I'm going to put a colon there, and so it was actually unclear whether we needed to find the exact birth date working with each one of these guys. I'm actually going to check that real quick. Yeah, so the GTAs I specifically worked with said you don't need to go nitty gritty in with it and go through the month, day, and specifically find out if they're actually 21 or 22 depending on the date within the year. They said you can just work with the year. So the first thing we want to do here is it said a hint was to use this dot split function, which we've used several times before. So the first thing I'm going to say is self dot birth dates equals self dot birth date dot split, and I'm going to split it by the dash because we know that this is the exact format we're going to be given every time. Now let's check out what I just did, because we should always be checking out what we're doing with our code. That's what good programmers do. I'm going to create a new terminal. I have no idea where I am. Okay, so I'm just going to really quickly go into where I need to go. Okay, so that's where I'm at right now, and then I'm going to run my code by typing Python file name enter, and I have an error, and that is because I need to comment out the tests I'm not using thus far. I'm going to try this again, and I did not save my file. Classic. And all right, so now as you can see, I have a list that has been split by this guy right here, which is what the dot split function does. And it's important to take note that these are lists of strings still, they're not integers. So in order to actually get that, what we need is we can say something like age equals 2022, because we can assume that it's for this year, minus int birth date 2. Now, of course, I need to say self dot birth date. But yeah, this way I'm literally indexing directly to 0, 1, 2, making that an int, subtracting it by this year to return the birthday. So now I can simply say print age. And let me comment this guy out right here, because let's just delete it. We don't need it anymore. I'm gonna hit S to save it. Gonna run that, and I printed out the string age, which I don't know what's going on with my mind right now. But we do that, and we get 21, which is what was expected, as you can see here. So now let's move on to the next two functions. These next two functions were very easy. It was literally just displaying stuff. So again, I'm going to say ask name, self, and whoopsies. I'm going to literally print I am, in a string obviously, I am, and then I'm going to do a comma here, and then I'm going to do self.name. I'm not even going to test that because I know it works, but you guys should always keep testing your code as you go, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the last one as well, which is def poke and self. And I'm going to print, ouch. I'm going to save that, whoops, I'm actually going to uncomment the rest of my test cases here. I'm going to save that, I'm going to run it, and we get the expected output. I strongly suggest you guys sort of get the syntax down with this whole self stuff. Ask a lot of questions on Piazza if you have any questions, because this will probably be on your final. Also, what's important here is some of you guys during the lab actually didn't know you guys were having some spacing trouble between the I and the M. So for instance, if I was to not have a space after this M here and have a plus, run that. See here, there's no longer a space here because I'm squishing it together. If you have a comma instead of a plus, that automatically adds a little invisible padding here. So now I will have the space. Likewise, if I did want to use the plus, I could just add a space at the end here. And if I run it, the space is back. But if I did a comma and a space, then it's going to look weird. It's going to have two spaces between here. So it's important you know these little things for your final, because that's what a lot of it's about.